Take Me for a Ride, Coming of Age in a Destructive Cult by Mark Laxer. Reading by Mark Laxer. Chapter 19. I'm okay. When I rejoined the center, I was determined to be a good disciple. I got a programming job in Newport Beach. I studied advanced topics in computer science at UC Irvine. I rented a condo for $725 per month, based on Rama's suggestion in Boulder. I worked hard, meditated deeply, and stole 3 eggs from a supermarket after Rama hiked the tuition again. Rama treated me with kindness. Perhaps he believed that this time I was really with him. He invited me to his house. He invited me to the desert. He invited me to partake in his chemical experiments. Roughly 150 miles southeast of the beaches of Orange County, in the Anza-Borrego Desert State Park, was a peak called Split Mountain. More than 30 miles away, by the edge of the park, was Casa del Zorro, a cottage-renting resort catering to the upper middle class. Here, Rama divined, was a good place to drop acid in a group. During the drive to Casa del Zorro, a fast food restaurant triggered a flashback of Rama giving Sal and me LSD and taking us to McDonald's. "Whatever you do," Rama had said, "don't order a strawberry shake." Rama and Sal proceeded to repeat the warning as if it were a mantra. Perhaps the drug magnified my sensitivity to the way Sal parroted Rama. Perhaps it magnified my sense of independence. Perhaps I was not in the mood for chocolate or vanilla. I stumbled to the counter and ordered a strawberry shake. It was delicious. Rama and Sal looked at me disapprovingly. I couldn't have cared less. The memory of the McDonald's trip made me smile. Later, as I approached Casa del Zorro, I had a flashback of Rama giving me acid at his home in Malibu. I had been sitting on a rug in the living room. A Beatles record played. "You never give me a money." Rama entered the room. "How are you doing, Kate?" he asked. "Not so good." I had been thinking about money. The world of my finances had appeared as menacing walls of debt that were surrounding and closing in on me. I felt miserable. Tears formed. I told Rama what I was going through. "Listen to the words of that song," he said. "Oh, that magic feeling, nowhere to go. See, kid, nowhere to go." I gazed at the floor. "You need to take time and rethink your life," he went on. "Somehow, you got entrenched in the dark side. But life does not have to be that way. Life can be wonderful." Typically, I would have felt elated by the attention he was giving me. It had been years since we were close. But through hallucinating eyes, he seemed distant and small, and his attempt to cheer me up made me feel worse. "Why don't you go jump in the pool?" he finally said. Years before, in La Jolla, he had often suggested pool therapy as a way to douse the flames of a conflict burning within. In Malibu, as in La Jolla, my woes soon diffused among ripples from the impact of one hand slapping. I played in the shallow end during that LSD trip until Rama asked Sal, who was not tripping, to drive me home. When we arrived at my apartment, I felt lucid, creative, fearless. I started to say whatever popped into my mind. Sal looked surprised. He looked at me as though I were someone else. Sal offered to take me for a walk. With arms dangling and torso bent, I moved like an injured ape, but gradually I slouched with Sal's support down the hill to the beach. "Look, Mark," said Sal, "there's the ocean." I looked to the frozen snapshot of the sea. I blinked and the waves rolled closer, and then they froze again. Then I saw whales diving and breaching in slow motion. I found myself among them. We swam together. We spoke a silent language I thought I never knew. I felt complete. They accepted me. You okay? Asked Sal, holding me up. I long for the freedom to roam. I long for the support of community. I looked to the sea, but the whales were gone. Later that day, I overheard Sal say to Rama, Mark's really bright. Of course he is, Rama replied, snapping his fingers. He's quick. I appreciated the compliment, but I wondered, how could I be bright and quick if I was also possessed and non-functional? The memory of that Malibu trip was fresh on my mind when I arrived in the Anza-Borrego desert and approached Casa del Zorro. Soon I was waiting in the cottage with Sal, Bill, and Al. Rama arrived late. He looked doughy-faced and haggard. He said he was stressed out and exhausted. Perhaps he was in more of a rut than we were. Rama distributed the stamps. Later he drove us to the top of a hill where he had us watch him. At some point I threw up. My awareness that I was me faded in and out. Behind my open or closed lids flashed continuous, multicolored explosions. From the chaos formed a spot, and the spot became shapes, and the shapes became symbols. I startled myself when I realized that I had been gazing in my mind's eye at the word Elliot. Perhaps as the rug of my ordinary perception was wrenched out from under me, I needed something solid, such as my middle name, to hold on to. I found myself sitting in the cottage, observing the way in which I thought about my thoughts. I noticed that my thoughts arrived in the form of words. I could read and understand them, or I could hide from them and let them pass. When Rama started to speak, his words were tightly packed, and it was difficult to hide. He talked for what seemed an eternity. Hours later, when Rama decided to drop acid, which he may not have done since the early 70s, I had for the most part come down from my trip. Roughly 45 minutes after Rama took the drug, he called me into his room. He lay in bed. His hair was messy. His face was contorted. He seemed disturbed. Is it okay? He asked meekly. It's okay, Rama, I said. Are you sure? I looked at him, tossing and turning. I remembered how he had repeatedly knocked me down psychologically, helped me, and knocked me down again. I remembered how he had often told me that revenge was worth waiting for. I had the sudden urge to help him up and knock him down. But my anger quickly dissipated when I realized that trembling before me lay not ruthless Rama, but rather the shell of a 34-year-old man named Fred Lenz. I'm sure, I said. I had an idea. A beautiful blue bird is here, Rama, I whispered. Birds, I knew, were something he genuinely loved. He looked confused. Yes, it's a beautiful blue bird, and it's large and friendly, and it's flying all around. There it goes. Rama, don't you see it? He followed my finger with his eyes, as if he were seeing the imaginary bird, and soon he fell asleep with a smile across his face. As he slept, I thought about what had just happened. An incarnation of God, I realized, would not have had a bad LSD trip. Rama was not who he said he was. He was not one of 12 fully enlightened souls on the planet. He was an ordinary man. He was vulnerable, and I wanted to believe he was my friend. After about 30 minutes, Rama awoke. He lifted his quivering hands above his head. "Did you see that?" he asked. "See what, Rama?" "I am filling the room with light. The powers are cycling through me. I am re-attaining enlightenment." Uh-oh, I thought, here we go again. Rama seemed utterly fascinated by his hands, which he wiggled and waved in front of his face. An uneasy feeling permeated my gut. I recalled the aftermath of his last enlightenment. Just because he believes he's perfect, I thought, why should I suffer? I recalled a few of his more outlandish claims. He had lectured a doctor about the nature of illness. Disease is merely the result of a difference in vibrations. He had taken credit when his father survived a coronary bypass operation. He had taken credit when disciples got decent jobs. I now realized that if I were to remain a disciple, I would need to humor myself about Rama's claims, lest I rekindle the debilitating conflict between my rational and mystical natures. I had the impression that Ken Kesey and the Merry Pranksters kept a sense of humor about their experiments, and I wondered how they might deal with someone afflicted with Rama's particular brand of enlightenment. I recalled reading in the electric Kool-Aid acid test that one prankster often said, "Yeah, right. That's it, I decided. When Rama starts getting out there, I'll say to myself, yeah, right. At that moment, Rama raised his arms again. "Do you see it?" he quavered. "I see it, Rama. Golden light is filling the room." Yeah, right, I thought. Rama waited for me to continue describing the light, which I did, and though I was lying and probably fanning the flame, I supposed this would beat an ongoing dark night of the soul. Rama now looked directly into my eyes. I could not recall him doing so, except during lectures and meditations, since 1981. "We used to be friends," he murmured. "What happened?" "Rama, I don't know." "Should there be any problems between us?" he asked. I felt that this was Fred trying to break through, and I struggled to hold back the tears. "You and I used to be friends," he continued. "But then something happened. We should be friends. Would you like that?" "Yes, Rama." He smiled at me with big puppy eyes. I told him that Sal, Bill, Al, and I had maintained a high consciousness earlier that day before he arrived. "We talked about what we hoped to gain from the power drug, Rama. It was as if we were spiritual warriors." Rama looked at me resolutely. "You are spiritual warriors," he said. Then he lay back down and fell asleep. I felt happy and self-confident. When Rama awoke, he turned to me and said, "You are okay. You are on the net." "On the what?" "The net, the network, the psychic energy network." "Really?" Yeah, right. "Yes." Rama, who wanted to see who else was on the net, hobbled out to the living room where Sal and Al quietly sat. "Are you on the net?" Rama asked them. "Yes," replied Sal, who had always been adept at learning rules to new games. Rama looked at him suspiciously, when suddenly the phone rang. It was Dana. Rama told her that she was on the net, seeing as how she called it so auspicious a moment. "So," he told her, "it's me, you, Mark, and Sal." He paused and said, "Sure, Mark is on the net. He's quick, like Mercury. He's right there." I realized it was less a network than it was Rama's net, but I was happy because the man I had once been friends with was back. I was also happy because my conflict-diffusing strategy seemed to be working. The following morning, I greeted Rama. He squinted his eyes and looked away. "Is anything the matter?" I asked. "Oh, yes," he answered haughtily. "I know all about it." "About what? I thought we were friends." "Oh, sure," he replied. "I know all about that part of you. That's the part that wants to control me." "Rama," I said, looking at him squarely in the eye, "you have two very different sides. and I like the other one better. In the weeks that followed, Rama mostly ignored me until he uprooted the 400 or so disciples from Southern California to the suburbs of Boston. At the last meeting in Beverly Hills, he called me to the stage, put his hand on my forehead, and said, "The Infinite is naming you Agni." The entry in my journal for the following day, April 4th, 1985, reads, "Yeah, got my spiritual name, Agni, fire, breaker of illusions, vision, third eye. Now everything is totally fresh and new. I feel good." I liked the name. It represented the spiritual progress I had made despite the difficulties of the past few years. As I caravanned across America in Rama's group, the new name boosted my confidence. It was springtime in New England. Rama rented a large house in Needham, Massachusetts, and held center meetings in a church in Boston. Many disciples followed his suggestion and moved to Concord, Lincoln, or Wellesley. I moved to Wayland. One day I bought a copy of Walden by Henry David Thoreau. My journal entry for June 15, 1985 reads, "Economics chapter in Walden didn't provide any answers, but caused me to ask questions which lead to a variety of possibilities. One question I asked myself was, how can I pay off my debt? One solution I came up with was, commute to work by bicycle." The entry continues, "By driving to a free lot in Arlington, parking and bicycling the remaining 7 to 8 miles, save $100 a month. Instill spirit back in me. Get exercise and strength. Pass Harvard and MIT daily for brain power. Bike around Boston lunchtime. Meet girls at Fennel Hall. Be independent, mobile, self-reliant." The following day, I bought a used 3-speed for $45 and put the plan into effect. Each weekday, I parked in the free lot, pedaled several miles along the Charles River, and braved downtown traffic as I sped to work, which was located 2 blocks from the site of the Boston Tea Party. I began to think of myself not as Rama's disciple, but as a bicyclist. On June 29, 1985, I wrote, "I am a bicyclist. That is my nature, swift, light, strong and sure, motion, speed, agility, pivotable, flexible, colorful, self-propelled, motivated. Bad forces beware. I am back, and I'm riding high. That's me, Agni, free spirit. Go now, and do not look back." It felt good to be pursuing a dream of my own, but I sensed that Rama would equate my project with the negative forces, so I chose not to tell him about the daily commutes and my newfound esteem. Perhaps as a result of my new streetwise sense of self, I grew increasingly critical of Rama. Another entry for June reads, "What really pisses me off is that Rama changes everything he says, contradicts himself, turns the situation around completely, so you never have a handle on him." The following week, Rama invited me to a group LSD trip at his house. On July 7, 1985, I wrote, "May be a picnic, LSD trip, tomorrow at Rama's. My intent is to change my view of reality completely, with particular attention giving toward becoming someone who has a girlfriend. Becoming my own person, i.e. my happiness and well-being, is not hinged upon the absence, parents, or presence, Rama, girlfriend, of any persons. To regain my kinship with the earth, to renew my excitement in life, to regain my integrity, self-reliance, and confidence." The next day, Rama distributed drug-soaked stamps to 10 or so followers in his living room. He let us wander around the house. Hours later, he called us to the living room and began to talk, and talk, and talk. I tried to understand how his words were affecting us. I thought in terms of computers. I decided that he had rebooted us with LSD, and now, as we were coming down, he was downloading his wordy operating system to our unformatted, receptive minds. He's formatting us like floppy disks, I thought. I was about to plug my ears with my fingers when suddenly I remembered that I had brought my journal. I retrieved it and sat back down. Rama was still talking. In the upper right-hand corner of the page, where I typically included the date, I wrote, "Timeless." I was still high. Then I wrote, "The basic Agni operating system, boot. Breathe deeply 2 times. Take your time. Where is your stomach? Who has control of it? Note, nothing else matters. Whoever is letting or not letting you take deep breaths of air, if this is someone other than me, eliminate them. You breathe. You take it easy. Get good exercise. Learn anything at a pace healthy for you." So 2 traps to avoid. 1, other people who lived my life, not me living my life. 2, people trying to help me, but I take it wrong due to number 1. Whatever trip you're on, remember breathing. Remember who you are. Never look to others to patch Agni. You must be strong. Even now I am drawing upon a very healthy basic energy that supports me. That so is good, but over the last 7 years, I have been always rushing to meet someone else's gap. No thanks. Everyone is the same. Some people think they are special. No. Rama was talking about American Indians. They weave people's attention, he said, to help sell their products. I wrote, "Always be moving on your own steam. Accept no substitutes. Everything has power. Some things are good, others not." Rama asked what I was doing. "I'm writing in my journal," I replied. "What have you written?" I read the last few sentences. "Some things have more power than others," he editorialized. Then he began talking about me. He spoke about how, when I had lived with him, I made shakes in the blender with all kinds of strange ingredients. "Why did Agni make these shakes?" he asked the disciples. No one answered. 1, he continued, there was power to them. 2, to attract attention. 3, this boy is an asshole. I wrote asshole and drew a circle around the word. Then I wrote, "Okay, but it's me, so fine." A few minutes later, Rama said, "Fake obvious things fool everybody." Then he said, "Humans are continually knocking on your door. As long as they are alive, they try and suck your power. You need to get strategic and learn to intensely dislike them. Cut them, push them away, anything to get them to fuck off." I wrote, "Cold." About an hour later, Rama had us watch The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai on the VCR. I sat several feet back from the group. After the movie, Rama announced, "Someone is way off. Can anyone see who it is?" The disciples glanced at me. "Of course, you all know that it's Agni. Now, what's the matter, baby?" I told him that things in my life were not working out. I told him that I needed to try something new. "If you wish to leave, please don't bring everyone else down." "Sorry, Rama." When I got home, I wrote, "Good. I feel much better already. Keep breathing, slow. Keep remembering Mark Elliott is the breather. Before he met any of these people, he was the breather. So too after. Before he dreamed himself into a Don Juan Carlos Castaneda world extravaganza, Fred, he's cool, but he was formatted improperly by a bad occultist. Simple. He also wanted to be a guru. Told me so in a UCSD parking lot. But cool guy. Powerful attention level. Controls every situation impeccably. Cares about others what seems to be an enormous amount. Yet detached, cold, warm. Whatever he was projecting. A master illusionist. Created dreams and realities with the flick of a wrist. This has not been healthy for me. 7 years occult training school has wiped me. Nothing wrong with it. Taught by an impeccable 8th degree black belt. only I don't handle it too well. So I recognize I tried something and it didn't work. I have the humility to realize that it isn't working for me. And for God's sake, try new things in your life, as FDR says. But Fred has definitely been out of shape. Let your hate grow, devil references, paranoia. Not to blame him. Had weak first attention as a kid. Dad, teacher, bent. I believe that the good side of Fred respects what I'm doing and wishes me well. I have no desire to speak or see anyone with whom I didn't know 7.5 years ago. Still coming down here from 3 hits of 6th or 7th acid trip. Good thing, boy, does that stuff make me sick. Good for changing, though. Thrown away much stuff. The journey, Elliot Mark Laxer, has just begun. Don't turn back. Go and keep moving. I have graduated 7 years an electric Kool-Aid acid test. Congratulations. That night, I wrote to Robert, the disciple who had gotten shot. The past 4 to 5 years has been a bad trip, a bad format. I was getting sicker, weaker. It is necessary for my well-being that I live off my own power. I have no need to convince you of this. This my body knows. My body has been telling me for years to leave Rama. Finally, he stopped convincing me to stay. Then I couldn't make it on my own, so I left and came back. Now I'm stronger, off my own steam. Unlike past times when I left Rama's attention field, I'm not going to waste thoughts and power on the past. The past, people's thoughts about me, my thoughts about me, are all like Nately's whore in Catch-22. Only she misses and I jump. About a week later, Dana called me with a warrior's task. Rama, she explained, wanted me to get former disciple Tom to call him. I told her I was not looking for a warrior's task, or any task for that matter. You know I left the center, I said. Don't you think you might be following your gut feelings, she asked. You bet. I also followed my gut feelings during the group acid trip earlier that month, when Rama asked the disciples to remain inside. I had walked outside and watched the small birds fly. The bottom line is that he's wrong about me, I thought, my self-confidence germinating the way pine seeds flourish when their cones are scorched by fire. I'm not possessed by demons, mentally ill, or bent on destruction. I'm okay.